write the Desmos for number 5. And I'm going to clear out this dirty statistics. Boy, who would want that? I'm just kidding. I love that class. So -2, absolute value. Absolute value is there. X minus 1. And absolute value. And then plus 4. All right. Home. Okay. So sketch the graph. We have sketched it. Here, I'll make that a little bit darker so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. All right. Sketch the graph. Label all key points. Okay, so I would say key point right here. What do you think? That a key point? And that's a key point. Those are intercepts of the x-axis. Agree? We have an intercept of the y-axis. Agree? And then one more point would be important. Which one do you think would be important?
The maximum?
Yeah, that max right there. That is a max. So the maximum, in some cases, you could label it as 1,4 as a maximum or a relative maximum. Sometimes they might just ask for the y component of the maximum value. Okay. Hello. Great to see you.
Forgot it was advisory.
Oh shoot, that happens. That happens. We're just going through the assignment. But that's all. That's everything that I would do. I don't think that's necessary. I can tell you, we are coming up on the test, which will be on Schoology, which if you've gone onto my Schoology page, you see this test that's sitting there, and you probably clicked it and can't open it, because I haven't opened it yet, but it's there. This type of problem, I think on that test, there's a couple of problems that are matching, where I have the picture of the graph, and you have to match which one goes. So what do? You get on to Desmos, graph it, and say, oh, it looks like this. And you go look at the graph and figure out if it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, or whatever, however many I have in there. Was there any others I could help you with on graphing review number 2? Feel comfortable? Yeah.
4.
Number 4, that's the y equals x over x minus 2 in parentheses squared. Oh, perfect. Can I get rid of this one? Thank you. Okay, so we're going to get y equals, and then we have an x on top, and we're going to go divided by, that gets us a fraction, parenthesis x minus 2, close parenthesis, and we want that squared. That right there? Cool. Ooh, it kind of looks like a big old volcano or something. Okay. So, couple of features that we should know. What is, oops, I don't want that twice. I only want it once. What, oops. I have that point. Ooh, take a look what's going on here. So, it comes through here, 0, 0. Okay. And let's see, does it ever come back and cross? I don't know if it's going to cross. I think that becomes like an asymptote. So it has this weird kind of asymptote down below. And then I think, is there any other value that you see that's coming to fruition? I mean, I can't imagine way out here we're going to eventually cross over. Okay, so the only value that we have to know is that right there at 0, 0. The reason 0, 0 is an intercept is if I plug 0 in for x, I get 0 on top, and I get -2 squared on bottom, so I get 0 over 4, and that's 0. So 0, 0 is important. And I'm not sure, oh, you know what this point is? Oh, you know what that point is? Okay, let me kind of zoom in on this. Okay, so they had that one important point. They had this one here, and they had this one here. Okay, So we got to be really kind of careful about this. So if I plug -2 in, I'd get basically -2 comma -125. So that comes up as an important point. But why is it an important point? Any ideas?
Is the minimum?
I think it is a minimum. Now, I'm not sure it's a minimum or not. What I think this graph is doing, what I believe is taking place, I can't really see it. It's coming down. I think we're all totally legit with this point here. But then this other dot showed up just kind of arbitrarily. I think it might be a minimum value. I think this comes down, and then it starts coming back up. Okay? Now, I think you might be able to sort of see it as you go along this line. And how you can verify if it's going back up, if I go this way and it's getting closer to 0, or if I go this way and this is getting closer to 0, that might make sense. So let's see if we can verify that. Okay, so if I start coming this way, is that getting closer to 0? Is that counting down? I think it is. And then if I come this way, it's also counting closer to 0. So this right here, oh, that's a tricky one. That is indeed a minimum value, a local minimum. Okay? It's but those are sometimes tougher to decipher because you don't want this graph to, you don't want to miss that. And the nice thing with Desmos is if I just click here and nothing shows up, as soon as you click one of the values, it realizes, oh, you want important values. Well, you have this little gray dot that showed up, and that is a local minimum. Okay? So, just trying to think how we look at this graph. So -2 is where we're thinking, right? I'm just trying to zoom in as close as I can. Let's try and make this work. I think it's eventually going to start. This is like the microscope. Ooh, that's as close as I can get. So we said here. So notice it kind of stays at the same thing, but does that mean it's not coming down there? Notice my -2 is staying that as well. And what happens is we have zoomed in so much that we are like looking at close to the point. Our X values and our Y values are revolving right around -2, -1.25, so very closely. But that is definitely a minimum point. Okay. Now, here's a toughie. Okay. This gets goofy. So by our knowledge definition of an asymptote is something that we get close to, we don't cross. But we crossed it right here. So can an asymptote exist that we actually cross? This is one of the weird scenarios. So we have a asymptote at y = 0 is an asymptote. Okay? And as I come this way, we do cross it, but then it becomes an asymptote underneath. And we go this way, and we get really, really close to it from the top. But so now, in theory, we have to kind of think. But we've been told over and over and over again, an asymptote is something we get really, really close to, but we don't ever cross. But I've changed rules of the game with a little equation. So yes, an asymptote can be crossed from time to time. In fact, an asymptote, a lot of the times, as you go to negative or positive infinity in the x direction, is something that what's happening at the end behavior. As I go forever to the left, it gets really, really close to y equals 0. As I go really, really far to the right, it gets really, really close to y equals 0. Y equals 0 is the x-axis, right? So, yeah, we can indeed cross an asymptote. And a lot of times with the crossing of the asymptote takes place very close to where all the action is taking place of a problem, meaning you see it jumping around. You know, like if I scroll way far that way, I'm not going to see the graph ever, recross it. Or if I go further this way, same idea. But an asymptote can be crossed from time to time, and it's really hard to decipher without using technology. And that's kind of a blessing that you guys have. Okay? And then we have a vertical asymptote at 2. As we go straight up this graph up top here, it's getting really, really close to x equals 2, but it's never going to cross it. Okay, so just some stuff to think about. And again, the technology is very helpful for us to figure out where things happen. And so whether that scrambles your brain a little bit when you've been indoctrinated to always think that you can't cross an asymptote, well, I just gave you a situation that could. Okay, kind of goofy. That's a good question to ask about. I like that. Does everyone realize how to do it? So you're going to look, like you can see this, and then once you do that, a second dot's going to show up. That second dot's not showing up to show you another unimportant point. It's trying to show you an important point. So we have a x and y axis crossing at 0, 0, which is the origin, and then we have a minimum at -2, -1.25 or 0.125. Cool. I like that problem. That gets a little goofy. All right. Anything else that you saw? What should we do? All right. We feeling comfortable? Everything else is happy, content? So again, I won't be here on Friday. Mr. Mimak will be here. We just have a worksheet. I will do the real life math on Monday, which is kind of fun. And then probably Tuesday we will do the in-class Schoology test. Okay? And again, first 20 minutes on your own, rest of the period, compare, share, and revise, which I think you guys all enjoyed. So I had to make kind of a business decision, because it's called business calc. I had to make a business decision. So my wife and I were buying our third home that we've had. We had one in Nevada, and we sold that. Now, here's the nice thing. The house I had in Nevada, I bought in 1999 for $160,000, and I sold it in 2005 when I moved here for $375,000. And when I moved here, I had enough money to buy the house that I have in Littleton for $296,000. So we allowed ourselves to have a small mortgage, but we paid it off within about 2 years. And we haven't had a mortgage since, but we have acted like we've had a mortgage for a long time, for the past 18 years, 17 years. We didn't have a mortgage, but we acted like we had a mortgage. So this is what we did. So let's say, I'm just doing arbitrary values. Let's say my mortgage payment was supposed to be $2,000. This would right, it'd be better. Okay. So I did this for 18 years. So let's do the math. So we use Desmos for this because Desmos has a much nicer calculator. So is that what I had said? 1,200. 2,000, I said, geez. We act like we had a mortgage payment of $2,000 a month. Okay, there are 12 months in a year. Still following me? 12 months in a year for the past 18 years. Okay, so every month we would act like we had a mortgage payment, but we invested this into that $2,000 into something called a large cap mutual fund. Okay, large cap mutual fund. If you basically look at the index funds back on that paper back there under the flag, it goes anywhere from 8.5% to 9.5% interest on your money. So let's do this. I'm going to go to a calculator we haven't used for a while. I just want to show you how things work in the stock market. I'm going to pull up the graphing calculator as soon as it comes up. And this has a cool feature, and we'll switch over this calculator when we start getting into the money part of this. But I just want you to realize how money grows and how money becomes a real positive situation for you. Okay, so we're going to go into programs. Nope, I'm going to apps, sorry. Going to finance, I'm going to go to something called a TBM solver. So 12 times 18 means I had 216 payments. Let's go very conservative on 8% interest. We had a previous value of 0. We have a payment of each month of $2,000 a month, acting like we have a mortgage. And so I hit second enter. Oops, clear. Alpha enter. Okay. Oops. Future value. I made a mistake. Clear. Did I do that right? I need to go up, back up here. Future value. Let's hit 0 for a sec. Make sure I did my math right. Okay, I have 12 payments at 18 years. That gives me 216, 8% interest. Payment of $2,000. And if I wanted, I need to make that negative. Negative 2,000. I'm paying out $2,000. So, if everything worked out right, which it didn't work out quite this nice. Oh, there's my mistake. I figured there's 12 months. 12, okay. And then alpha, enter. There we go. Okay. So in theory, if I had put that $2,000 into that mutual fund and I earned a very conservative number of 8% interest, okay? Originally, I had said, I'm going to come back to this, second quit, 216 times 2,000. I don't know why this calculator is not going away. Oops. 216 times 2,000. So I invested $432,000 over the past 18 years, and by doing the math the right way, did I make money?
Yes.
Okay. So, I kid you not. We went, found a home that we wanted. They say to us, how are you going to pay for this house? Oh, you're going to wait for the sale of your house. No. How are you going to pay for this house? You going to do a 30-year mortgage? No. Well, how are you going to pay for this house? Liquidate a mutual fund? Pay cash. Now here's the hard thing, my friends. Here's the hard thing. Between my wife and I, she's a college professor at CU Denver. She makes relatively the same as me. You can easily find out how much I make because it's public record of what teachers make. So I make roughly $120K a year. My wife makes right around that as well. So we qualified very easily for our home with what we did if we wanted a 30-year mortgage on a 5.6%. So let's do this. Okay. Will someone write the 960172 down just in a place so we can come back to it? Someone jot that down for me. Just 960172. Got it? Cool. All right. So let me show you how a 30-year mortgage would work right now. Okay, there's 12 months in the year. Agree? 30-year mortgage. That means there's 360 payments I'm going to make. The interest on homes right now on a mortgage is 5.6%. Okay, my house is going to cost me this. Okay, did I have enough money in my mutual fund to pay cash for that house? Hell yeah. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to take our future value to 0. We're still doing payments. So I'm going to look at what my payment would be. So I'm going to go hit alpha, enter. So my payment, if I put nothing down on the house, would be roughly $4,200 a year. Okay, rounded up to the nearest 100. Agree? Or $4,200 a month. Okay, so $4,200 a month times 360 payments means that my house that I put it was 730,000 would cost me $1,512,000 if I chose to take the mortgage and pay it out on with a minimum payment as each month. Okay? So the hard thing is we don't have a mortgage. We put the money away like we had a mortgage. We have plenty of money to pay for the house, so I had to make a decision. Do I liquidate that mutual fund? Okay, how much was that mutual fund? Where were we at? 172. Okay, so I'm going to pay 35% taxes on that to the federal government. So that means this is worth 65% of what it should be, which takes us to that. Okay, because I have to pay taxes on it. So my mutual fund, which is $960,000 and change, theoretically, really is only worth $624,000 because of the taxes. Okay, so what should I do? Well, we have decided that we're probably going to take, originally doing a $200,000 mortgage. That would cover it, because if you add those together, you get to $824,000, okay, which is more than the price of the house. We will pay that off as aggressively as possible. That's going to leave us extra money to get any of the furnishings that we would want to get. You know, make sure I have window coverings, because it doesn't come with curtains or mini blinds or anything like that. So what I will basically do is I have the sale of my home that I haven't even touched that money yet. And my home that I paid $296,000 for will go up on the market for $800,000, which I don't have a mortgage on. So how long do you think I will really have my $200,000 mortgage for? As soon as my house clears, and I get the money in my account, we make one lump sum payment to the mortgage company, get the title to our house. So basically, I will have a $200,000 mortgage that I have probably make one payment on, and then the following month, if everything goes right, I should get a check for $800,000 less the 6% of realtor fees. So I will officially own my second home before you guys start your freshman year in college. Guys, that's real business. And we're going to investigate this kind of stuff a lot more through the semester in ways that are not hard to do. Okay? The biggest thing, and it's so hard as a teenager to fathom this, the biggest thing for you to realize in life is if you can take 10% of what you make on any paycheck and sock it away. Now, the ideal thing to do is 10% based on 10% before taxes. So, if you have your paycheck, let's say your paycheck is $5,000, but the federal government is going to have a taxable rate that they're going to tax you at, and we're going to go over a tax table. Maybe I'll do a tax table Friday next week as a real life thing, because tax season's coming up. I want to show you how federal taxes work, because it's not how you think. Unless you've taken a business class, and you might be a little bit more aware of it. But it's just one of those things that you take a look at. How do you make it work? And honestly, if you can take 10% of what your original paycheck would be and put that away and live off the rest, and you continue to do that through your life, you will be a millionaire before you are 50 if you start at 18. Okay? Now, what account should I plug into? Well, there are retirement accounts, so you can't really touch retirement accounts until you're 59 and a half. Okay? That's where we have some of our money sitting in as a retirement account. So we can't hit those retirement accounts because you have penalties from the federal government if you do that. Should I do a Roth IRA, meaning I pay taxes on my money now, and so whatever interest I make on my money in the future, I don't have to pay taxes on, even if once the gains take place. Those are all some critical things that you need to start thinking about. And at this point in your life, it's good enough. You're at a perfect time. But again, my friends, when I tell you, you could be a millionaire by the time you're 50, I kid you not. It is a very easy thing to do, as long as you can get your mind set saying, okay, I'm going to look at what my paycheck would have been before taxes. I'm going to take 10% of that, and I'm going to put it away. You're going to invest it. Okay, I'm not saying put it away where you have it sitting in a under your mattress, because that doesn't earn interest. But putting it away. And I have heard all of the stories out there of people who made a wise investment and it turned out really well. That's kind of like the Vegas story. I told you a story the other day of how I earned somebody for $243,000 or $343,000 playing craps. You always hear what people want. You don't know what it took for them to get there. I had fun wins when I lived in Vegas. My best win was a $40 bet. Why is this not working? Oops, clear. It started working. I made a $40 bet on the very first Tyson Holyfield fight, before Tyson bit off Holyfield's ear in the second fight. And the reason I made it a $40 bet is the Horseshoe offered, if you bid a $40 bet at their sports book, they gave you a ticket to go into a large room to watch the fight on big TVs while it was happening. And they gave you a taco bar, and you also got like 2 drink coupons that came with it. So I went and did that. And I picked Holyfield to win. And I had 26-1. That was my biggest win with my own money. I can assure you I left a heck of a lot more money than that. I lived in Nevada for 9 years. I left a heck of a lot more than that in the casinos. But that was one big sharp win. That was great. So kind of fun. Just goofy real life applications of math. I tell you the stories of the successes I have had, because yes, my friends, when I was your age, I started to invest, and I went ahead with that. I did everything that my parents did for their retirement. I did differently. My parents basically waited till they were 50 and aggressively saved as much as they could till they retired. And I can tell you that my mom passed 2 years ago. And then my dad says, hey, can you guys take a look at my bank accounts? So my wife and I did, and I was like, where's the rest of the money? Like, Well, that's it. No, there's got to be another account. No, that's it. Seriously, there's got to be more. No, that's it. I don't know how my parents retired. You know, my dad's still living. He has a new woman friend who he is living with, which is kind of weird. But it is what it is. I mean, it's better than my dad being lonely. And she actually did very well for herself. And so this past summer when then two of them came, I had a conversation with her that I know my dad wouldn't have had. And I just said, look, I just want you to let you know, my dad gets my mom's retirement and his Social Security each month, which comes roughly to $7,000 a month. There's roughly $100,000 sitting in mutual funds, and there's roughly $100,000 sitting in liquid savings. Don't let my dad act like he's a millionaire. Don't let my dad act like he can go buy a $300,000 RV. She's like, okay. And I was just honest because I know my dad wasn't going to be. But that's all I have for you, my friends. Why don't we'll worry about Graphing Review 3 next week. Deal? Or we'll hit that tomorrow because I know